Welcome to Laid Back Law with your favorite lawyers from around the interwebs, discussing the most pressing of topics every Friday at noon Eastern Time.
All right, welcome back to another Laid Back Law on Friday, Legal Friday. Did something happen this week? Anything of note?
I don't know. I think it involves this guy here somehow.
Okay. That dude in the background. Was there another attempt on him? What happened?
No, fascism won. Fascism won. Deutsch Spidanya. You know, it's the one thing I will say I love is watching, like, I was watching Breaking Points, and, you know, I forget the Crystal. She's like, I don't see any scenario where she loses. She's going to get 319 electoral votes. It's amazing.
Crystal, yeah, come on. I looked at that, and I always thought she was suspect anyway. Because
I go back and I was going back and forth on my live stream between Young Turks and Rachel Maddow, and just watching them both break down.
No, have you guys seen what's been going on? I got to get all right.
It's your cue. Come on, Nate, that's your cue.
Like 5 years ago. All right, but because I have to do it, I got to do it in my Nigerian accent. So this is for, remember the Jussie Smollett? How he was attacked by the Nigerians. So I was doing "This is MAGA country" in a Nigerian accent, so I got to make sure I get it right.
All right.
This, my brother, this is MAGA country. That's how you would say it if you're a Nigerian trying to attack a black man. But you guys got to see what's going on. So on the liberal side, so as you guys know, I watch liberal YouTube and conservative YouTube. So I'm like right in the middle. So I've been watching.
I know you have to get your training.
Yes, I got to get. Of course, I got to get my training. But it's crazy because so there's been like this massive, and I mean massive, unsubscribe campaign, and they're losing like so much money over there. Matter of fact, I think I have the clip. But they're like literally begging people to stay because like David Pacman, he said record numbers of people have left their memberships and subscribers. They're all, and it's across the board, and they're trying to figure out. At first they thought it was like a YouTube issue, but then come to find out like it wasn't a YouTube issue. They were just like people were just abandoning them. So hold on, let me share this to show you. But it's
while you're pulling that up, let me share this for the moment. This is the day after.
Oh.
Man,
it did not take them very long.
That is hard.
Kamala, come on, no, Kamala. I don't know why people like that MAGA. No. See, it's MAGA country. No, it's MAGA country. MAGA. You got to say it right. You got to say it right.
Well, no, we don't want to take away your thunder.
Here it is. Let's listen to what's been going on liberal media. It's like a bloodbath over there.
I'm going to tell you something that is terrifying me. I always try to come here and put a positive face on everything, but there is something going on that is terrifying me.
That mustache.
This morning, we had lost 5,000 YouTube subscribers compared to where we were last night. Now, the first thing I thought was, is this a glitch? We've been on YouTube for 15 years or something like that. And subscribers always just go up. They just never go down. They go up. Is something wrong with my channel? Is someone attacking my channel? What's going on? So I started texting. And I texted Brian Tyler Cohen. And I texted Tyler Cohen and Brian Cohen and Brian Tyler. All of them. I texted all of them. I texted Jesse Dollamore.
Are those different people?
I texted Luke Beasley and Farron Cousins and Sam
Why
Cedar.
You got the name mixed up. Okay.
Yeah, he got the name. So he was.
I get it. Yeah.
But Sam Cedar, he's got like 3 million subscribers. Sam Cedar's got 1 million. He's got like 2 or 3. So he's naming all the big YouTubers that he was calling. That he was texting.
And
he's name dropping.
Every single one of our channels since last night is hemorrhaging subscribers. What is it that is going on? Here is a graphic. As you can see, subscribers just go up, 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 and they are down. It is not just YouTube subscribers. We are seeing record cancellations of paid memberships. Record cancellations. These are the people that keep the show running. Now, for a moment, I thought, if it's just YouTube, maybe YouTube is purging people who are inactive subscribers. And once a year, usually YouTube does this, and you see a little decline, and then numbers go back up. They're not doing it. They're not doing it. And if that were the case, we wouldn't be seeing paid membership cancellations on the website. So now I understand what is going on. It's terrifying, but it is happening. A lot of people are checking out. I heard anecdotally from a couple dozen people who said, you know, David,
I thought he was going to say
can't do
they
it
were
anymore.
rounding them
I
up
just
and sending them to camps.
Yep.
Yeah,
That
that's
when
what's
you say
happening.
terrifying, that's what I think
It's
of. Not
Trump. It's Trump's cronies going in there and hacking the site and deleting those members. That's what's happening.
No,
It started day one.
but this is it. But just like he said, it's not just YouTube, Twitch, YouTube. It's literally all across all platforms, all media. And I think it's because people feel like they were scammed. People feel like they were freaking scammed. Like, hold on, you told us this. And a lot of that stuff, those lies they told, I think it's essentially come back to bite them in the behind. Instead of being honest and saying we really don't know who's going to win. Like this guy, he was saying Kamala's going to win. Matter of fact, he said
Calling
literally-
Alan Lichtman.
He literally said he saw no situation in where Trump would blow out thing. It's Kamala's going to win, and now people are like, no, that you're not only wrong, you had us believing that you were informed. So
What's
Sucks to be
interesting
them.
is I'm wondering if the left is going to learn from this, or if they're going to double down.
Let me answer your question right now, because I have a video that I wanted to talk about today. So here you go. This is from the left and their plans.
Tell me what I'm missing here. If Donald Trump wins the election, Joe Biden could issue a statement and say, I took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. And because Donald
It gets
Trump
better.
won the election with heavy foreign influence, with misinformation, and because he wants to pardon domestic terrorists who tried to stop an election from taking place, I cannot simultaneously maintain my oath to the Constitution and also allow Kamala Harris to certify the election results. For these reasons, Donald Trump will not be the next president. And at the same time, I will resign and Kamala Harris will be the acting president until a new election is conducted that results in a candidate who is worthy of defending the country.
Let it go. Let it go.
Because this is an official act in my role of maintaining my oath to the Constitution.
an
I
official
am
act.
immune from all prosecution
look.
today and in the future. I've done quite a bit of reading on the immunity.
Oh, I'm
ruling,
sure you know.
and I honestly don't see a way that this wouldn't be completely legal. Not
Jesus
even
Christ.
necessarily what I would want. But
Oh.
it's what Donald Trump asked for.
I would love to see his reading
Oh.
material. What do you guess that reading material is? Oh my God. I had to have that because there you go. That is the sentiment.
Nah, come on, it's not. That he's a lunatic.
He's
he's a
insane.
lunatic.
But what's interesting is that what he's basically asking for is a
coup.
What
a
Trump was asking
January
for 4 years
6th
ago.
from the
Yeah.
inside.
He's asking for what Trump did 4 years ago. Well,
Yeah.
attempted to do, except
Yeah.
with the violence and the whole, take over the country stuff.
and accept.
Well,
that
I
he
believe it
not
might
was
lead to some
relinquishing
violence.
office. I think.
Yeah. No, essentially that's what he said. Trump asked Pence to not to certify. He's saying, I want Kamala not to certify. So, I think
Hold on.
I
How
think-
can Kamala certify when she's supposed to be a president? Remember, Biden resigns and she's president.
there would
There's
be
no VP to
but-
certify.
Yeah, there would be no VP to certify it. But then it would go to the what's the guy? The
Speaker of the House.
the pro tem, the Senate, the Senate pro tem. What's the number one, the top guy in the Senate? I forgot.
Speaker of the House, who is a Republican.
Would it go to the House? The Speaker of the House?
No,
Or
I thought it would
be
go to the Senate
Oh,
guy.
sorry. Oh, okay.
the majority leader, the Senate majority leader.
Yeah, the Senate pro tem, whatever the hell it is.
The whole
Who, by
thing
the
is
way, would be a
nonsense.
Republican.
Who would be a Republican at that time?
The
So
whole
how's
thing
that
is
going to work out?
Insanity. Come on.
Of course, it's insanity. That's why.
Yeah, that's insanity.
No,
No, but it's not representative. I mean that's
No.
just
No.
that's
Wait. I guarantee if you go in that guy's history, if you go back almost 4 years into his history, a little less, you'll probably see some ranting against conservatives for for hanging out on Capitol Hill.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Okay, so that does lead into a disagreement I have with my show partner, Mark, on America's Untold Stories. Mark thinks that Biden's going to resign so he can give a historic first to Kamala Harris to be a president for a minute, being the first female, blah, 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 blah. I'm saying no effing way. I'm putting it out to all of you. Nate, do you think this is actually going to happen, that Biden will resign at the last minute and give her 75-day presidency, or 60-day or 30-day, or whichever?
I think absolutely not. I think Biden is secretly happy about what.
I don't think it's secret. Did you see his statement yesterday?
Yesterday, he was almost tap dancing. He's like, "Oh, hello."
As a matter of fact, yesterday was shocking to me because I have never seen Biden more lucid
and happy
in the past 3 years. No, there was no stammering, no stuttering. His speech was clear and flowing.
It was like Kamala won. It was like Kamala won.
You know what it reminded me of? Fetterman.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Fetterman, because remember, Fetterman was just like, I mean, it's like his brain was detached. And I'm going to try to be mean. There was something really wrong. And then now it's like this guy's completely clear, going out there, controversial. I mean, did you guys all see that yesterday? The Biden
I did.
statement?
Yeah. His little speech. Yeah, he seemed very coherent.
I mean, shocking.
But it was short. Yeah.
Okay, but I can't remember him even on a quick aside to the press being that coherent. I'm serious. I've never seen him that coherent in the past 3-4 years.
Well, they gave him his medicine, and sent him out.
Or they took it away.
Or that too, yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes you wonder. And yeah, America Dreamer, good point. Sexist Trump. Remember Mark Cuban saying, "I haven't seen any strong women near Trump"? Well, who did he make as the first female chief of staff in history?
That's a DEI hire. DEI right there.
Yeah, it must be that misogynistic
DEI.
Trump.
That's right.
I don't think the party is going to let Biden, even if Biden wanted to, step down and let Kamala be just for 75 days, whatever it is that's left. The party's not going to let that happen, because I think, one, it'll weaken the party, and two, it'll make her ineligible if they wanted, if for some stupid reason she wanted to run again. Not ineligible, but it would give her first term, right? No, she'd be an elevated vice, so never mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it makes it look bad.
Oh, yeah. Well, and not only that, I think that I don't think he would survive the wrath of Jill Biden if he did that.
Yeah. Well, they need to. Well, that's the other thing too. Yeah. But the Democratic Party really needs to step back and try to figure out, without blaming others, why they lost. And I think it's clear that they stopped talking to their base and started talking to the fringe, and the base doesn't like that. And that's what they really need to realize. I had an interesting conversation with my parents. They listen to Mitch Albom. I don't know if you guys know him. Tuesday with Morey. He's very liberal talk radio guy, and my parents were saying he's becoming more and more conservative. I said, no, he's not. He's always said the same thing. The problem is the Democratic Party has gone more liberal, so now he sounds conservative.
Yeah, that's good.
And so the Democratic Party needs to come back, and I think that's why they lost.
It's like Alan Dershowitz.
Good point.
Alan Dershowitz actually gave up, and he was like the last Japanese soldier, that was holding out after the war. I mean, I was like, oh, there it is. When Dershowitz finally said, "I'm done. I can't do it anymore." I mean, this guy was so much of a Democrat. No, I mean, he's even said, I'm not leaving. They're messing up. They're, forever and ever and ever. And he finally gave up. He's like,
well, I got to call bullshit
anymore
on Dershowitz, because every time Dershowitz is always, I think he just plays that game. I'm a Democrat, but then whenever he speaks, he always speaks. Like, for instance, when Clinton was being impeached, he was all, it can be impeached for anything. Then when Trump gets impeached, it has to be a crime. So, maybe he may say, because I like to focus on what people say and do versus what they tell me they are. And he is essentially a Republican, but just likes to cloak himself in that, hey, I'm a Democrat. But everything he does and everything he says and every type of side of the issue he's on has always been with the Republicans and conservatives. So,
all right, fair enough. Now, I definitely want to talk about the cases, because there's a lot of cases with Trump. But I kind of wanted to get this one out there too, and see your opinion, because one, I hope that Trump's protection detail has been upped by a large margin with his 10 points that he came out with last night. The fact that he's bringing Ron Paul in with Elon Musk to quite literally potentially end the Fed. I mean, that is some shocking stuff. And this is very interesting. You've got Jerome Powell on the Fed literally answering a political reporter saying, no, I don't care if he, asks me to step down. I won't step down, and nobody can do anything about it, which is, I think, kind of taking the disguise off of this, or, removing the sheep's wool and putting the wolf in there. You have an unelected branch of the government with the Fed. And
why does he think he can't be fired?
He can't be. The way it is set up right now, the only way you can fire him is if Congress dissolves the pact that's the Fed. It's very scary if you look into it. And I think it's quite important that they are illuminating what's going on and getting rid of the Fed, giving it back to Congress. I'm sorry, what, Ron?
You said something about the Illuminati?
No, I said deep state. No, that's more.
So,
of a deep state.
That's interesting. It creates a situation similar to like England or Canada, where the parliament can be dissolved by the monarchy, and just and a new election had. It creates a situation like that where Congress can literally dissolve the Fed, but then create it again and then put a new Fed chair, right?
Or it could just be dissolved, because technically it's powers of Congress that they abdicated, which is something I've been bitching about for a long time. They've abdicated calling war, declaring wars. They've abdicated the Fed. They've abdicated all these freaking departments in the government that, are really the administration. That's all Congress. It's all technically congressional responsibility.
Well, so the end of Chevron deference is going to put a lot of stuff back in Congress's lap, because they're going to have to write statutes that are much more clear.
With the ambiguous,
yeah.
Trump doesn't have that kind of power. Well, he's going to have the majority in the Senate and in the House. He's going to the Republicans. That's the other thing that I wanted to say is the Republicans now have control of the Senate, the House, the judiciary, and the presidency. So it's time to step up. You can't fail us. Otherwise, you guys are going to be out for so long.
I think in 2 years we're going to have to flip. Yeah, if they don't do something now in 2 years, if they don't do it, then we're going to be talking about a whole different scenario.
Yeah, he's going to act
24 months.
Well, and one thing I also want to just mention about the Fed too is that don't forget it's the Fed is really the banks, because the banks all have a piece of the Fed, and and most of our debt is actually owed to the Fed. So if you're talking about removing, disbanding the Fed, then you're talking about paying back, because those people then you're talking about a taking of their property, those trillions of dollars. So I don't think we can afford to pay them back right now. So we're in this tenuous position with the Fed, where if you do want to disband it, the banks can then technically say, well, all right, you still owe us those trillions of dollars.
Yeah, but you know what they can do? They can print the money and say, here's some free money, go away. So I mean, it is a problem. It's been a giant problem for over 100 years that you have a private institution that is not the government with that kind of power.
Well, I do want to say that the Fed is the one who actually prints, the printing engraving prints it, but the Fed is authorized it. But if, let's say that happened, and say we'll just print trillions of dollars, that destroy the U.S. economy, because inflation will be out of control. So they won't be able to pay it. Essentially, what I'm saying is they won't be able to pay it. The Federal Reserve has put itself in a position where you can't really disband it without really destroying your own economy. So the banks are smart. They put themselves in that position, but it's not an easy fix. And that's why I think Ron Paul is smart in saying we need to at least audit them to show where the hell our money is going. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, yeah, you need to go through it. And if you have to, use a scalpel, kind of like who's been looking at what RFK's been talking about with the FDA.
Yeah.
He's literally saying, okay, that department is gone. This is going to be gone. And it's looking like Trump's going to put him as a health czar, possibly, because then he doesn't have to be, congressional approval. It could just be in that position, advise the president, and the president can say goodbye. There are ways around it, and I do see interesting signs. I don't know if they're all going to shake out, but I do like the fact they're talking about it. I do like Trump putting out about, I want a resignation letter from all senior leadership involved with the Afghanistan withdrawal on my desk noon on inauguration. Now, and a lot of people are like, well, those military careers, I guarantee they all have 20 years in and they can file their retirement and they're going to be fine. Those who are crying, but they should be out. They should be jettisoned. All the intelligence officers, the 51 of them who said the Hunter Biden laptop was a real thing, every one of them should have their security clearances immediately revoked today, which is the only value they really have to the networks right now. Am I going off track with any of these ideas?
No.
Did
you hear?
I'm not accepting the premise that I have to endorse everything you just said. You said a lot of you're putting a lot of things in that basket, Eric. And
okay, well, tell me what you disagree with, and that's cool.
Well, I don't know about disagree, but I think these are all legitimate things for us to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, I think it would be. I think that the FDA needs to be radically reformed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he didn't say he's going to eliminate it. He said he's going through and cutting specific parts.
I think that anyone listening, though, to what you said over the last few minutes could very well believe that you suggested that the FDA be disbanded.
Yeah.
Not that the president has power to do that without.
Actually, I was saying the opposite. I said that he was going to go within it, and because you talked about auditing, so he's going to go within it and certain departments within. He's exploring eliminating. That's not eliminating the entire organization. Okay. So well, I was
again, you know, just to make it clear that that was not good. That was not what you were saying. I would also say that there is a real question about the Federal Reserve. I think there are problems. Yes, it was created to be independent and free of political influence, but obviously what happens is you end up getting a differently politicized entity, that has grown wildly out of control, and which probably largely caused the Great Depression by its poor decision making, and there is no accountability there. But as Nate points out, you can't just pull the plug on these kinds of institutions. I actually had a couple of former FBI agents on my podcast over the last few months and said to them, what would you do with the FBI? I mean, you can't just, first of all, when you have the FBI in particular, and you didn't even mention the FBI. Maybe we'll say that for another part of the conversation. But
I'm happy to. I mean, obviously you can go through and you can audit the organization like all others and look at it within. I didn't say get rid of the FBI.
No, right. These need reform. I think Department of Education, I'm in favor of that. I think you could pull the plug on immediately. If there are civil rights issues, then the Justice Department handles that.
Well, okay, using that same theory, technically you could pull the plug on the FBI and incorporate it into the ATF, or you can merge the organizations into a new. That's why you have Homeland Security. Remember, Bush did that. He moved the Secret Service over. So there are some things that can be done.
100%. That's right. And and also, I mean, if it were really possible to do something that conservatives have been talking about for decades, which is to take all these Washington and Northern Virginia-based agencies and sprinkle them around the country and expose them to the nation that they are regulating. Why on earth is the Department of Agriculture, which in and of itself is a dubious...
Yeah, why not have it in Kansas, you mean? Department. Like as a headquarters or somewhere near a lot of ag. Sure.
And further away from lobbyists. I mean, the opportunity for real serious change is here, and as you pointed out, I think was it you or one of you guys? It's got to be. This is the opportunity. This is the moment. Big ideas that have been floated for a very long time have to be put on the table and seriously considered.
Yeah, and again, and that's what I'm saying. And I like what and I mentioned RFK specifically because that's what he put out. He's in essence saying he's going through the agency and cleaning up the agency. The agency will be there. When it's clean and people are, then it's like it can be run in a different manner.
Oh, for sure.
Did you hear Elon Musk speak the other day about what he was envisioning this? He was basically saying, like, listen, there's a lot of government waste, but foremost is we're going to shine a light on everything. So if you want to do something, everyone's going to know what you're doing. And I think that is going to be the most effective way to curtail
transparency would be great.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss the forest for the trees though in all of this, because in going through and trying to reorganization is always going to be, and I think each administration should come in with that mindset, right? Because what the other guys did obviously wasn't working, so we got to change some stuff around. But I also think you have to be cautious in doing this, because sometimes your resources may be better spent at attacking bigger problems. For instance, like if you take all the waste in the federal government, that wouldn't even be close to a tenth of what we're paying in interest on the debt and those type of issues. So if you're really talking about making some fundamental changes to save, let's say, our economy and the country, I think you should focus on the things that would really affect how we're doing. Like the Federal Reserve really affects like how money is being spent versus cleaning up the FDA. There's really that's not really going to change.
But a lot of
situation,
I disagree, because a lot of these organizations, by attacking them and the regulations that they have put down that frees up a lot of industries, it absolutely can change and free up the economy. Like things that's opening up the fracking, opening up this, because it's not just eliminating waste. Some of it is taking off handcuffs to where things themselves can grow to generate more income to come in my opinion.
Yeah, you're talking about eliminating departments like the Department of Education. You could do right away. Maybe even the EPA. I don't know what the ramifications of that would be, except other than opening up a lot of resources such as fracking and natural, oil and things like that. And
there's state EPAs just about everywhere, I think. I think most states have their own environmental bit. So if the company screws around in a state, the state can sue and help control that. Do we have to have double layers on everything?
Yeah, but it's weird, because a lot of times when government tries to look in and try to restructure, they essentially always become bigger. Like, for instance, when Bush did it when we had the 9/11. Then all of a sudden we get a bigger bureaucracy. Now we got the Department of Homeland Security, and that's a monster. Now we can't get rid of that, because now if you get rid of that, you got all the problems.
Oh, hell, Trump gave us a Space Force, for God's sake.
Although I don't think Bush was
bigger.
Although Bush technically was a businessman, I don't think he was ever a successful businessman. As opposed to Elon and Trump and others that might have a little bit more experience with the whole idea of streamlining an enterprise in general. So I have a little more faith in them than Bush.
Yeah, well, I think the only issue is I think Bush tried to solve the bureaucracy by making more bureaucracy, and I'm hoping they're, like you're saying, these businessmen think we want to reduce how we're spending it versus let's make more government for government. So.
Well, if it looks like Twitter, you know what's going to happen. Because I can tell you what Elon Musk did in Twitter. Woo! What is it, 7,500 to 2,600? He can cut. That guy can cut.
But I will also say this: if no matter what anyone is saying, if they don't perform in these 4 years, we're going to have a totally different scenario. And I'm hoping in 2 years you don't have this, because don't forget Obama got him with like 400, and then in 2 years with a bloodbath the other way. So that's generally what happens. But if you have all of these big positions, because don't forget he had it before, and the immigration is still a problem 8 years later. So you're there, you got them all.
I will say this:
now it's time to walk the walk, because we've talked the talk. It's time.
I think immigration will always be a problem, but he damn sure can shrink it.
Let's see it. Let's see. I'm not saying he can't.
No, his immigration was far better, obviously, than Biden. I mean, certain things like immediately put back Remain in Mexico. Immediately.
Yes.
And that's a very quick thing. It doesn't need congressional. Just boom, executive order. Flip all the Biden executive orders, just like Biden did to Trump's.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, put a bill through Congress to make this shit law. excuse my language, instead of the executive order game of one guy does it, the next person comes along and then erases it, you need to put it through the Congress while you have the mandate, because I think it's much harder to flip over the law or the policy. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, but
No, I agree.
Yeah, executive orders are a cheap way to like get something like a treaty through too. Like, because that was the Paris Accords and the Iran agreement. Essentially, it was like, an executive agreement. So I don't know. It's just executive orders are a necessary piece of government. So I don't know.
But they're temporary measures, in my opinion.
They are. So I don't know. I don't know if you have to look.
No, not necessarily. The executive is setting policy, and if an executive order that's properly tailored, as opposed to Obama and in many cases Biden saying, I can't get legislation that I want, so I'm going to make it an executive order. Talk about worrying about democracy. That's preposterous. But executive orders that say, everyone who works in the executive branch, I'm the chief executive, and here's how we're going to interpret, or here's how we're going to apply, or these are going to be the guidelines for approaching from to the extent permissible under the statute and under the Constitution. So that can be permanent unless and until challenged, where challenge is appropriate. But
that's literally saying within their presidency, in my opinion, because the next person along can say, well, now it's my mandate, that's done. If you're really looking to set policy that is to be long-term, I think you need to push it through Congress.
Not according to, what was that federal case where I don't know how far it went or what the ultimate resolution was when Trump tried to set aside some of Obama's executive orders, and the court said, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, because that was specifically for the DACA ones, particularly because there was like this. So he tried to end it for the people who had already. There was like this promise, right? If you come forward, we won't prosecute you, and his executive order was like, since I'm the chief law enforcement officer, I can choose who and who I have to prosecute based on the finite resources argument, which is essentially how they do it. So I said, we just don't have the resources to prosecute these people. So if you come forward, we'll sign you up and we won't deport you or put you through this process. So then when Trump came in, Trump was like, well, that was his agreement under executive order. I don't want to do that. But the court said, well, because there was this give and take, that exchange, then you can't now renege on your deal.
So it was basically he was trying to violate an established contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why.
One thing I was going to say is the one department that should be expanded, like if we're talking about where's the waste and where are the problems that we need to solve, take some money from some agencies that we don't really need and put it into the immigration courts so that we can get more staff and we can expedite some of these immigration hearings a lot faster. I think that would be a great move.
That's a great
Okay,
idea.
hold on. I want to point this out. People are saying you need the Congress and the Senate at the same time. Congress is the Senate, dummy, and the House. What the hell are you talking about? And by the way, it looks like the Republicans are going to have the House and the Senate. Now, the House, the Democrats are praying that they pull something out, but I'm literally saying the branch of the government that has the Senate and the House of Representatives that we call Congress is where you're going to push it through. So just want to point that out.
No, put that back up. Put that, because I think I want to give that person some charity. Put that back up.
All right.
I'm thinking what that person is meaning from this. You need the Congress and the Senate at the same time. The Senate will not just allow it through. I'm assuming, and this is me being very charitable, is that the filibuster, because unless you have the 40 votes in the Senate, you can't. Even if you do have the Senate, with the 1 vote majority, you still need 40 to get that.
Well, actually, it's 3 vote with majority now, I think. But anyway,
you need 60 votes though.
I'm wondering if Eric was pointing out the fact that Congress is the collective of the Senate and the House.
He is. Yes. Eric is saying that. I'm being overly charitable to that comment.
Right, Eric, fair enough.
I'm not disagreeing with Eric. Eric is 1,000% correct. I'm saying I want to be overly charitable because I'm assuming that's the person's trying to mean.
And that's why everybody's saying he needs to get it done in the first 2 years because midterm, very commonly, the party loses the House and the Senate, because I do think Americans in general prefer split government.
Look, I think they expect return on investment. So return on investment, they want 2 years. All right, what have you done? and if there's nothing getting done, then it's
Right.
too late. So
I think that
Okay, can we
congressional
talk
races
about,
are
though-
much more local. People tend to vote locally on the local races. I don't know how much the split government. To me, that always sounded like bullshit. To tell you the truth, I
Well,
think
it keeps happening, Ron. I mean, over and over, at least in recent decades, right? It's like, Obama comes in with a mandate and he has it, and then boom, he loses the Congress.
Well, no,
it happened
so-
to Clinton.
but the-
happened.
So
Yeah.
the fact that during the midterms, the party that has the White House tends to do poorly, I think is a reflection of the fact that there's dissatisfaction. It's always easy to second guess the party, that's in charge, and certainly the president. And it's easier to run. It's always easier to run a negative campaign. Although I think Kamala proved this year that there are limits to that. But I don't think it's because people are really making that calculation. The fact that that's often what happens is not the same as proving that that's why it's happening. That's all I'm saying.
It's one of those that it could be
Causal
even a
versus
conscious thing
correlative.
too.
Causal versus correlative.
Can I share something with you guys? This is what. So I'm sorry. I'm doing some editing in the background, but I want to play this because this is what the top YouTube liberals are saying. The reason why they believe that they lost, and just not to spoil the lead, they're going to say the mainstream media is working for conservative against them.
Oh, I know. I always love that.
You think I'm BSing? No,
No. I've seen it before. That they say it all the time.
This guy literally just put this up.
I know. It's crazy.
So here it is. He's going to tell you how the liberal, the mainstream media is in the tank for conservatives.
Yeah.
Democrats continue for some fucking reason, unbeknownst to me, to pretend that mainstream media is some partner in democracy, that they're on our team. I don't know how much clearer I can say this. They are not on our team. Corporate media exists to serve its shareholders. It is a business before it's anything else, certainly before it's some protector of democracy. And yet still, our side has decided that
why am I losing subs?
Go to mainstream media. When there's news, give it to mainstream media. Let's keep validating the same outlets that continuously undermine us at every single turn.
They undermine the left.
Sometimes
Go and
I have
pause
to
for a second, Nate. I do agree with him on one thing.
All right.
That it absolutely is driven by corporate. But the corporate is supporting the left. The BlackRocks, et cetera, are supporting the left. So they happen to be paying that, Harley Davidson's, all these DEI, all that BS. So technically he is correct in the corporate money, but trying to say that it's right wing is ludicrous.
Views for my channel for months and months and months and months and still don't even hear back. And yet they'll fall over themselves to go talk to the New York Times, the same outlet that ran 60 cover stories about Hillary's emails. That's who they need to confer more validation onto. That's who they need to reward with their time, with eyeballs. We desperately need a left-wing media ecosystem that rivals what they have on the right.
That's just totally lost it.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
You don't believe that? They're working for you guys.
Mind-boggling.
Oh, yeah.
That surprised you, huh, Eric?
Confession through projection. No, it doesn't surprise me. I'm always saying this, and it drives Mark crazy. Shocking, but not surprising.
Oh my God! It's what. Oh, you guys want to see the moment Lickman realized?
Oh yeah. It's 6 hours. I think it's like at 6 hours and 50 something minutes. I might have looked that one up.
Oh my God! Look, it's
now that Joe's here, I have a question for Joe.
I want to see what he's saying, but you can ask me your question meanwhile. What you got?
So the criminal charges against Trump in New York, what's the maximum that he could face?
He's not going to.
1 million years.
No, but my thought is if the judge wanted to be extra creative and kind of a dick, he could say, I'm going to sentence you to X number of years with the first 4 years suspended.
Mm-hmm. He could.
Yeah,
do that. The maximum he can give him, from what I recall when I looked at this, was 20 years. Because I think it caps out that if that on one charge for adding up these felonies that it caps out, because each of these felonies would have a year sentence, that the maximum you can give is 20, which obviously would be the rest of his life anyway if he's suspended for 4 years. I do not foresee him he could, I guess he could suspend it for 4 years.
Good.
Yeah. I think this was such a terrible night for Judge Merchan. I was saying when I was covering this, I was like, what a terrible day.
Well, what about Jack Smith?
Jack Smith.
It's really bad for Jack Smith, guys.
Danny Willis, all of them. Like, oh my God. Because they're all, you have to realize, they don't have an actual agenda. They're all creatures which are they're survival creatures, and it's all about power and recognition and fame, and you just got, and it's all about sucking up.
Here we go. Jack Smith just moved to vacate all court dates in DC case. Motion is available online.
He stepped down. He stepped down.
2 days ago they called it.
Because he said the policy of the DOJ is not to go after someone who's president. So that's what. And to his credit, for the first time I think in my life I've ever said to Jack Smith's credit, he's treating a president-elect as a president, which he should be. But
well, the people voted. The people pardoned Trump.
I think the fact that he won the popular votes. Understand this: the reason, one of the reasons Democrats always win the popular vote is because Democrats start with like a 5 million advantage nationwide. That they're 5. And we tend to assume that both parties have the same number of people. That's just not reality. The reality is that there are millions more Democrats than there are.
Not anymore. I think that the latest trend has showed Republicans.
As of Tuesday.
Yeah. And the point is, so in order to win the popular vote, if you're a Republican, you need to be convincing either a lot of independents to join you, or a whole bunch of Democrats to flip,
or a lot of Democrats to just stay home. That's another option.
Right. That's true. Turnout is
like
really
15
big.
million of them.
Well, there's 20 million missing votes. I know that.
Yeah. Well, they're saying, okay, some are gonna, in California and Arizona, they're still printing them in the basement.
Oh, okay.
But so it's I'd be very surprised if they don't withdraw that whole thing in New York. I would think, first and foremost, I mean, just as a matter of law, there were so many problems with the jury instructions that he gave that they were just, we've covered that here on this show. I don't need to repeat all that, but it was really, really shaky as a matter of law with respect to those jury instructions, allowing the jury to basically have a choose your own adventure as to which crime he was committing. So that was asinine and ridiculous. And now with this mandate coming from the public, I expect his sentence date, I believe, was set for November 26th. I expect within the next week that basically Bragg and Merchan are going to sit down and perhaps with his counsel and sort of reach a decision as to what procedure they're going to use to make these verdicts go away. And they'll use it as far as, in public interest, because he's president, in the public interest, that sort of thing.
If it doesn't go away, I don't anticipate Trump showing up on the 26th.
They'll issue a marshal to have. He'll send a marshal out to arrest Trump. This is such.
Could you imagine that where you have marshals facing down a Secret Service? That's not going to fly.
I don't think you get a marshal to agree to it. What marshal is going to be like? Yeah, I'm going in there.
Now, Nate, I think you disagree from our side conversations. What do you think is going to happen on the 26th?
On the 20th? No, I think they're going to fine him out, give a big fine. Nobody goes to jail for it. Even if he was convicted, if he was a regular blowjo and was convicted, you'd get a fine, whatever, and then you won't be able to do business in New York and go about his day. And that I think is probably the more likely thing, because this is a fine. He's not. That's about it. And then you go about your life. Now, if he wants to do something more than that, I think it would, number one, it'd be highly irregular, because it's a first time offender, no history, prominent member of society, president-elect, and the majority of people who get convicted of something like this pay fines and you can't do business. So I think that may be it. I think if we talk about the federal cases. The federal cases are gone because they're going to take longer than 2 months to air out. So in 2 months, when Trump becomes president, then guess what? He's going to prosecute himself? No, that's gone. Those two are done. Jack Smith has no choice.
It's a problem.
Yeah, he has no choice but to let those go. If they were smart, Biden was smart and wanted to bring the country together, he would have easily, hey, I'm pardoning him for all this crime, stop this stuff, and now that thought put the country together, because people would say, okay, that's better. But Jack Smith, you got to do what you got to do.
The fact is, it's really in a way, it's a shame. This is my personal opinion, because these cases really deserve to be
exposed,
addressed by appellate courts, and they won't be.
I think the conviction will. I think they can do the conviction when he's sentenced later next week. I think that'll be, and I think this is still going through that. I think the biggest issues for Trump, talking about in the cases, E. Jean Carroll, that's still $100 million he's going to have to pay. Yep. And I think also the other civil case with the AG, I think that's a problem. But I think that one I think has the best chance of being appealed, because again, it's a civil case and all that stuff. So.
Did you see her press conference though? She literally said, "We're coming
after Trump again." Yeah,
and I'm like, this woman, man, holy cow!
That's what gets them elected in New York. But I don't know if you guys. Well, I don't. Joe lives in New York. As a matter of fact, you guys, Joe and Ron are close to New York.
Joe and I live in New Jersey.
New Jersey, but you're close to New York.
Yes, when we walk home from shul at night, we see the sparkling lights of Manhattan down the street.
Did you guys in the New York Post? Something interesting. Nobody's talking about this. The highest vote total for Republicans ever in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. More people in Trump doubled the amount of votes in the freaking Bronx than any other president. And they were going through the numbers. He came closer to flipping New York than any Republican candidate in the past 30 years. And the biggest vote share was in the Bronx and in Manhattan. For the Latino population, they went
Staten Island. I'm sure he won.
Staten, but the vote share didn't increase. I think it increased by like 0.1% or something like that.
Okay.
But his vote share essentially doubled in the Bronx. It's not like in Manhattan. It was insane. So this is I think the problem is that we're looking at it, but we're not. I don't think we're understanding. This isn't about whether you're Republican or Democrat anymore. This is about lunacy and whether you're going to go with the lunacy or you're going to go with what makes sense. And I think those people in the Bronx and those people in the urban areas, when for good or bad, those migrants were shipped up there and they started giving them $600 cards and all this other stuff. We woke those people up like, well, hell, we've been here all this time. They weren't giving us cards. They weren't doing any of it. They weren't putting us up in hotels. They weren't doing any of this stuff for us. Matter of fact, they were okay with letting us sleep on the streets.
Here, let me show you something, Nate, because you're talking about New York. Let's go and look what New York Times put out here. Oops, I'm going to add that to the screen. This is the red word shift in counties across the country. See how hard it is to find blue?
Yeah.
So it ain't just New York, buddy. It is all over. It's shocking.
My saying New York was showing that the issues here. When you
turnout or registration, what is that? What is that
voting for Trump? Like he made gains.
This is the way he made
and
gains.
rightward shifts all through here, and that's all the counties that they show. That he made gains.
See, the problem is that it's all the abortion thing, which Kamala wanted to hang her hat on. Abortion. It's the one issue vote, but people don't vote on abortion. They vote by their pockets. When you go and you're paying $7 for milk and $2 for a slice of bread, that's what people vote on. And also people vote on when they see millions and millions of migrants getting treated like, getting put up in the best hotels, and arguing and say we're not being treated good enough. That people like those people in the Bronx say, you know what, F you. And now it's funny because now even in New York, the mayor just said we're going to stop that program about giving them $600 a month for food. It's like
no more credit cards, no more credit cards to decide what you want to spend, what you want to buy food. How they'll allow you to have food. They're going to have access to food, but no more credit cards that you basically go to buy whatever you want, because it was just insane. But you talk about how insane the mindset of these folks are. I don't know if you guys saw this 30-second clip here that I'm about to share here with them sharing here. you need to see this just how insane the left is with even after the fact. Even after the fact, just consider the insanity of a Sonny Hostin.
And finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, points, 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's
Misogyny.
on the border. This is on their doorstep. So, and they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are not.
Understand this: 75% of they went 75% for Trump in a place that's 97% Latino, and she's calling it misogyny. 75% includes men and women. Men and women.
The women are misogynists.
I'm sure it was internalized misogyny, like, poor Nate has internalized racism. But you know what? Please continue, Sonny Hostin. Please continue that mindset. Thank you, because you're doing nothing but helping the agenda get passed on the other side. So please go ahead and keep mouthing off and saying stupid shit like that. Please.
This was, and I'll also say this was a rejection of identity politics. This was an overall rejection of all that identity politic crap, and they are still pushing it like it's relevant now. He's misogynist. He's this. He says every ism Trump has been called, even a Nazi, right? They read it out, called him Hitler. And they rejected all of that. And I think that's what they don't understand. She thinks I can just say they're misogynist and wave it away. She doesn't want to understand that she's the racist. It's not them. She's the sexist. It's
projection. It's total projection. And it's just like those same TikTokers that are going out there and saying, the women saying, well, if you're a conservative guy, you're getting no more happy time from me and all this stuff.
And the right wingers are saying good, fewer abortions.
Yeah, they just think it's all projection. It's all nonsense. And they don't understand how real people think.
Oh, God.
Oh, Ricada.
All right.
Ricada. I'm about to say you can't. But bring your ass on in here, bro. What's going on?
I'll send a link.
Send a link. The mindset. So, lies are becoming.
So I wanted to ask too, Joe and Ron. They apparently Hamas said that they're calling for an immediate ceasefire. Is there any truth to that?
I wasn't there.
Joe and I don't have any special sources.
Oh, I thought you had the inside scoop. But I thought that was
call
amazing.
Up Israel, guys. Call up Israel. Let us know what's going on. Call up Netanyahu.
The protocols meetings are on Saturday night this time of year.
Okay, all right. I'll check back with you guys on Sunday.
But that is a reflection of the difference between an actual leader versus zero leadership. That's when all of a sudden Hamas is like, holy hell, we really need to like, start winding this thing down. There's zero chance that happens if Kamala wins. They'll just be able to milk this entire situation to try and garner more good PR, which is all they've gotten from the left. And now that Trump's coming in, they're like, all right, maybe we'll give you back the hostages, which is what's implied in their call for a ceasefire, that they're willing to negotiate and they want to just make sure they get a ceasefire when they give back the hostages.
For you guys, what do you guys think about in Pennsylvania that the Muslim population went over and voted for Trump, even though Trump is staunchly for Israel? Why do you think that?
I think it's because he's for peace. I think that deep down they're not going to hate Israel less, but I think they might actually like peace more, in my opinion.
I think that I think that the Muslim population. I think it's a fascinating thing how she managed to lose both Muslims and Jews. I mean, how can you manage to lose both sides? How can you manage to lose both Muslims and Jews? You had them both. What she should have done. I actually said the easiest strategy in the world that she should have done if she was intelligent and she had an intelligent campaign, because it's not just her, it's her campaign was so stupid. Everything about her campaign was so stupid. She clearly avoided Josh Shapiro and took Tim Walz because he was Jewish and was afraid of alienating her base. She should have done exactly the opposite, and this is what she should have done if they had an intelligent campaign. You take Josh Shapiro, and you know that that's going to give you Pennsylvania, which was a key state that she needs. And then you go into Dearborn, Michigan, and all the Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan, and you start screaming about how Bibi Netanyahu is Hitler, just like Trump, and that the two of them are basically Hitler, and that she's going to make sure that Israel's going to have a special election and withhold stuff from Israel until they get rid of Bibi Netanyahu.
Joe, she kind of did that. Remember, she got caught running opposite ads.
Yes,
in Jewish areas,
exactly.
In
Right, but what happened was
Muslim areas.
That's why she had a problem. You see, they leaned into the whole thing that our messaging, I could put that people will just not watch a commercial unless it's aired over here in my local state. It was so stupid because she didn't realize that most irreligious Jews love to live vicariously through other Jews. Not guys like me and Ron, but they make a big deal, the biggest deal in the world about like, oh, here's a Jewish baseball player. Oh my gosh. Like Ron and I don't give the slightest damn about that. They're like, oh, did you know Lenny Kravitz is Jewish? Yeah. And it's like, Woody Allen.
Drake.
Yeah, exactly. They get so excited about the concept of some Jew being raised up or doing well and having success. They live through it. It's the dumbest, stupidest, most moronic, childish cuckoldry in the world. But that makes them feel better about themselves. So if they would have seen Josh Shapiro, they would have been throwing the money at them. They would have been supporting her. They would have been all over her. And then when they would hear her basically say, oh, it's not Israel's the problem, it's Bibi that's the problem, and I'm going to get rid of Bibi, that would have distinguished her from the Biden camp, from the Biden camp. It would have shown that she's her own person, and it would have made everyone feel like, oh, we have to fixate on Biden. Excuse me, I said Biden. Fixate on Bibi. Fixate on Bibi that he's the terrible individual, and that would have won her the Jews. It would have won her the Muslims. She would have gotten Michigan. She would have gotten Pennsylvania. This would have been a disastrous thing for Trump and the entire MAGA movement. Thank God her campaign was so stupid as to not realize that was the obvious route to go. But yeah.
I'm gonna push back on you and agree with Neurotic in the chat that I think you're missing the point with the Muslims, particularly in Michigan, is that they didn't like the LGBTQ stuff being pushed in public schools that their kids are attending. It's the same thing why Christian,
that is definitely true.
While Catholic Latinos and Christian Black men and women were all anti-Harris, and that I think is one of the stronger issue there.
So you're saying that outweighed the whole Gaza situation?
I think so, because they're not living there. You say like, there's some Jews that live vicariously through other Jews. I think you have the same thing. But what hit home for them is the LGBTQ stuff that's being pushed into public schools, which is really against their sort of their religious take, as well as the Catholic Latinos.
And that's a story that really needs to be told. I will tell you that before 9/11, I was talking to a guy named Grover Norquist, very conservative, once a very prominent conservative, who I think is married to a Muslim woman, Muslima, who was trying to get conservatives to build a bridge to Muslims, because he said, just as Joe and I say, Orthodox Jews, and as Ms. Larini points out, Amish, we are the real social conservatives. Our trad wives are real trad wives. And then some people did something, and nobody wanted to listen to Grover anymore on that topic. But the media narrative is a Marxist one. All non-white, non-males are oppressed. And therefore, what they all have in common is solidarity in overthrowing oppression. And the American message to that has been, they tried that with blacks in the 30s. And blacks didn't buy it. And not that no blacks bought it, many of them did. But blacks did not overwhelmingly, by any stretch of the imagination, become communists. They switched that to women, and that tactic, not the Ruskies, but Marxists in general. They switched the topic to women, and it went very well. And a neo version of that, of course, is what is now dominant in the universities. The Palestinian protests are all about overthrowing the Western order. The fact that the Jews are involved just makes everybody feel nostalgic for good old-fashioned anti-Semitism. Like that works for them, fine. But Muslims who are not in school, Muslims who are building businesses. Joe and I live, yes, if you look down one street when we're walking back from Shul, you see the towers of New York. But if you change your view a few degrees over to the right, down Brook Avenue, you'll see the glow that comes from Paterson, New Jersey, which I think is the largest Muslim city in America. Mm-hmm. And it's in Passaic County, as Joe and I are. And Passaic County went red. And we have never had a problem with Paterson. No one comes from Paterson and starts up with us. No one goes over to Paterson to start up with them. Not only that, I get calls from that part, that part of our area for people who want to hire me as a lawyer. They're working people. They're Americans. They are that doesn't mean, listen, I go to a barbershop, which happens to also be a client, and I don't know why, but somebody saw what one of the partners in this barbershop is an Arab, and he put something on his Instagram about Gaza that was not good for business. Okay. Well, if you drill down, you have to realize that people have visceral and emotional ties to issues that don't necessarily correspond to a well thought out moral worldview. But the point of the matter is, most of the people who are voting, and I'll tell you, Muslims, not necessarily all that known for being particularly receptive to women in positions of leadership. Okay. And I think also that there are a lot of sharp people out there of every race, color, and creed, and really, notwithstanding what Morning Joe wants everyone to think, and Jimmy Kimmel and all these assholes, most people with their heads on straight realize what an absolutely phony, unqualified candidate this was.
Yeah, no, she was as plastic as they.
Yeah, she was plastic.
I mean,
I'm just happy I don't have to hear that cackle anymore.
Oh my God.
You know what? One thing about Kamala that I find fascinating. So I'm over here. So I play poker over here, and I'm chilling. And it's heavily. We have a lot of black guys. We had a lot of. It's one of those I call it like the United Nations spots. But anyway, all the black people in this spot, when I was like, yeah, Kamala, first black woman, they were like, she's not black. Why do you keep saying that? And literally, they pull up the clips of like when she became senator. The first Indian senator, like they say, so then it's like, but then they kept saying that her, with her Jamaican father. So I was like, Jamaican, they were like, Nate, they're white Jamaicans. Just because they don't never say black Jamaican. They say Jamaican because but there are white people in Jamaica. Her father was like white. So
South Africa? There's white people in South Africa?
Black people.
No, Jamaica.
But come to find out, and if you watch The Breakfast Club, because I watch them every morning, the people who are calling in their show, all the black people were like, she's not black. Stop saying it. She's not black. And it's funny because the mainstream media was trying to feed us the fact that she was black, but how the black people rejected the fact that she was black because she was never sent that. So it
was an interesting thing. I don't know if you guys were, when you were watching, if you watched carefully, I don't think she ever said she was black a single time. She had people around her all calling her black, and she would sit there nodding, but she never once referred to herself as black. And I was actually watching for it to see if she can get busted on it. And, people around her are like, it would say in front of her, refer to her as being black. Oprah would do that sort of thing. And they would all just imply that she was black, and she would sit there nodding. But she was very careful to never actually say it. And I think out of fear that she would be busted, that they would play back side-by-side clips of her calling herself Indian.
Well, she did post pictures of herself with fake relatives in her book.
Right.
Which is an interesting way to
Was it like the McDonald's picture?
Oh, well, no, not exactly. By the way, I just want to put out, in case you didn't see it, just for Nick Ricada, I see he's in the chat. I did send links to you, Nick, both on a DM on X, and I also texted you if you want to come on and hang out. Obviously, I always love having Nick on the show. So I just wanted to put that
you know
out there.
what I think the fundamental thing that sorry.
No, I'm gonna get out of here.
That
12 o'clock. I gotta run, guys. It was great seeing everybody. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, MLS. I'm just gotta get out of here.
Oh,
see you, Nick. See you, Nate. Yeah, let's put Nick in his place. They're interchangeable.
It's pretty much the same.
I can't tell them apart.
Yeah, really. No, what I was going to say is I think one of her mistakes, like you said, that she was running two different commercials, one pro Palestine, one pro Israel, that she fails to consider the fact that social media, your what you put out there isn't just confined to, you know, cable news and local news and things like that, that people are actually sharing your videos. So when you change your accent, when you're talking in predominantly Black community, and then you change it to a different accent when you're talking in, you know, Southern America, people notice that, and then people don't trust you. Trump was the same all the way through. Wherever he was talking, he was the exact same person. You knew what you're getting.
Somebody has pointed out to me, and I don't know if it's true or not. Right? It's been pointed out that in Black communities that's called code shifting, and that it is not completely uncommon. But I find it disturbing and inauthentic, and I agree with you 100% that Trump is Trump is Trump. You know, down to wearing.
There's also code shift. There's code shifting, and code shifting is something. Joe and I do it. We talk a different patois when we're just having a conversation between the two of us. There are words that come from our educational, system, the Talmudic expressions and legal expressions that are used, and it makes it easier for us to, there are shortcuts. But it's one thing when you can have two different codes when they're both you.
Right. Okay.
Right. When you're both you.
You
but Kamala doesn't have that code. She's not somebody who grew up like so. If I would go and try to be a good old boy down on the farm, right? Notwithstanding,
awkward.
It would come across kind of awkward, right? So you can have multiple channels where you communicate more comfortably with different people in different social and perhaps even ethnic environments. But that's
is that like Eminem possibly, because he grew up on 3 mile or 10 mile, whatever it was.
Yeah, so there's an example of a guy who, right? Yeah,
8 Mile. Thank you. I'm not from Michigan. But no, it just he pops into my mind because he, and he's pretty, accepted by a lot of Black community and definitely can speak in a different manner. So interesting.
Yeah, he wasn't accepted at first, though. I will say that. So because he lived on the other side of 8 Mile, even though it wasn't the nicest part, and he was white, he wasn't accepted at first. He had to earn that acceptance, and I think that's maybe what Kamala didn't do. She didn't earn that. And there's just a lot of failing things. Plus, you're talking to a group of people that, as we said earlier, are not really in favor of some of these fringe communities. These not the alphabet people entirely, but mainly the T's and the other things like that. They're not in favor of that, and you're going to have a hard time selling that.
Well, and Kamala just came across as fake and everything. I mean, my favorite answer was to Anderson Cooper, which was, I believe, I'm going to get things done because there's things that need to be done, there are things that need to be done, which, or things that are going to be done that need to be done, and I'm going to do because they need to be done. It was like this.
Every answer was like that. Whether they're just talking about time, whether she's talking, and she was obviously the queen of the whole circle dance. The significance of the passage of time, and because time is significant when there's passage. and
you see the stars.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, somebody brought up in chat if Michelle Obama. What do you guys think if she had won instead of Kamala? Do you think, given the whole scenario, Biden is backing out, but instead of Kamala, the VP, they elevate Michelle Obama?
She didn't want it. I've been saying
no,
forever,
but let's assume she did. Do you think do you think how would you think that this would play out?
I think that she would have been shredded as soon as she was put out there. It's like there's so many people that we love. They're going to be great. They're going to be wonderful. And then as soon as they start to run, it's like all kinds of things hit. They don't respond well. To who's there. It's very difficult for anybody to.
She would not sell. She would not sell. And I think the reason she never even considered it, first of all, it might be. I mean, she is a Princeton class of '85 alumna, so she's probably pretty bright. She probably is smart enough to realize that she doesn't. It's not really something she wants.
Well, why should she? Gets $750,000 for giving a speech right now in Germany.
Not only money, it's way beyond money, right? The Obamas are worth $80 million or something. I mean, it's not a money issue.
She's worshipped too. I mean, she's like Princess Di in America.
Yeah, there's no upside for her, and why have to have? I mean, she's never really worked, so why should she start now? And I also think she polls. I wouldn't be surprised if the internals, focus groups, outside of the world of magazine editors who just think of her as the very epitome of elegance
and class.
I don't really think people are really that into her.
No,
she's not particularly charismatic. Hillary Clinton is a legit more interesting person. Before she became a complete gangster, I think there was really some there.
I don't know. She's literally had 16 years of nothing but amazing PR. We're talking about Michelle. She's had nothing but 16 years of phenomenal, and it's going to be 20 years.
But that's all corporate media.
But people, I think people have just come to accept that she is this intelligent, magnificent thing. I think a lot of people on the left really, really buy it.
But she's smart enough to not open her mouth and disprove it.
That's often true. That's often true. I agree with you on that. My point is, I thank God. I think I agree. I agree that with the notion a lot of people have thrown out there. I don't believe she wants it. I think that she's happier. She's happier playing second fiddle, and that she doesn't have a desire to have that thrust upon her and be the center of the spotlight. But she's someone who always was a concern for me, that she would be a difficult beat for any Republican, just because of the phenomenal PR she's had throughout her life. So.
Yeah, again, though, and I agree with Ron about Hillary Clinton. It's one of those, like, just because you think the person's evil doesn't mean they're stupid. Hillary's
so who do the Dems run in 4 years?
Sure. I don't. Their party's a mess. I think they're actually. This is something people haven't really started assessing yet. They don't have anyone who is the heir apparent. When you look at the Republican Party right now,
coming up quite a lot.
Stein, who? Jill?
No, out of Pennsylvania.
Shapiro.
I'm sorry, Shapiro.
They have Shapiro, Whitmer, and Newsom, right? Shapiro, Whitmer, and Newsom are those three. I mean,
maybe Cuomo. Don't rule him out. No, just because he got knocked out once.
He's done.
Hey, Trump was done, right?
No, I think he's really done because to them, far worse than sentencing tens of thousands of old people to death. Far worse is that he was kind of gross in dealing with 4 or 5 women. So that's far less pardonable. They have far less pardonable sin. No, because that became a public thing that they accepted. They embraced their truth because they're very into their truth. So they embraced the perspective that he is misogynist, and that's an unpardonable sin, far worse than killing tens of thousands of people through blatantly and foreseeably, predictably terrible COVID policies.
By the way, Cuomo may even be in the running to be New York mayor. That's been coming up. So
I'll tell you right now, I really think his political career is over. But if you look at what the right has, I mean, coming up after Trump, you're gonna have a 3-way battle there between Vivek, JD, and as far as taking over the party. And I think
don't rule out Tulsi.
And Tulsi also, that's true. Tulsi is very, very popular. She is. I don't think she's way down on the list for me personally.
Vance is the heir apparent.
Oh, he is. I mean, he's a shoo-in for sure. But there's still a lot, like there's some crazy controversy comes up or whatever. There's a lot of people in the wings too. I mean, there's a deeper bench on the right.
Yeah, there really is. And fortunately, the popularity is not simply on the right, because there's no difference between right and left. They're all the same in general. But MAGA and America First people, that's a marked distinction. Did you guys see the policies that that Trump said he's going to be pushing forward to expose the deep state and take them down?
Apparently, that video is a year old, just for what it's worth. But I don't think there's anything there that would be different from what it was a year ago.
What video is a year old?
So he covered 10-step plan that he has to try and take out the deep state, and the 10 steps they put in there. I actually spent like an hour and a half just talking and breaking down each of the steps that he's planning on embracing in order to take the deep state out of Washington. Number 1 and 2 are basically, just reinstating the executive order, which gives him carte blanche to just lightsaber away anyone who is corrupt and working against the interests of yeah. I mean, I think it's an amazing breakdown, and I sort of was breaking down which of these are viable, like actually can be done, versus which ones are like, you might have struggled just legally getting that through. But it's a 3-minute video. It's actually a great breakdown of 10 different things, and you could talk about. I'd be curious to hear from you guys as to which ones you think are most viable and potentially impactful.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption. And there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every inspector general's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee, so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration.
All right, well, we're going to be leaving before too long, so I mean, there's plenty there to chew on.
Yeah, I mean, 8 was actually that he's going to be moving Washington across the country and move all these different agencies into different cities across the country.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's
like all of a sudden the FDA move them out to Wyoming, move out the EPA into into Missouri, just kick them all around all over the whole country. Because part of the things that happens in Washington, you go into a bar, you can see like these interagency people, they're all in bed with each other. They're all in league with each other. And number 9 was that he was going to basically, and this number 9, I had questions about the legality of it, and I wanted to ask you two guys what you thought of this. Is that he was going to try and end the pipeline from government agencies into the private sphere, and basically what a lot of people don't realize, and Vivek pointed this out when he was still a candidate, is someone goes and works for the FDA. And they get a government job and they work there for 10, 15 years, and then they leave there and they get paid a multi-million-dollar job to work for Big Pharma. And
remember, wasn't there a 6-month rule that Trump imposed when what was one of his first? I don't know whether it was an executive order or whether, I think it was, you could not go into the industry that you regulated for 6 months after leaving government.
I think they need to improve on that, Ron, though, because
I'm sorry, Eric?
I think they need to improve on that, though, because right now you can make it 2 years or whatever. You have these damn think tanks that are kind of like the holding pattern. So, for example, because I was in the military, so somebody who's a general, obviously defense contractors want them, so then they go into a think tank for a while. And then that covers them, they cool their heels there, blah, blah, blah. And then they pop out. And I'm just like, somebody needs to look at that whole damn pipeline, in my opinion.
The DOD and the military industrial complex, you see with the FDA and Big Pharma, you see with the EPA and with all the energy companies that they basically work for the EPA. And then 10 minutes later, they're working for Exxon, or it's just they all do it. And it makes you, and they get paid multi-million-dollar jobs, and it really looks as if, okay, so you were now just checking over me for the last 7 years, and now I'm gonna be giving you millions of dollars, a $10 million job a year, and it's like, and by the way, if you look at their track record, they weren't really very regulatory in the way that they were supposed to be regulating, and it just makes you feel as if this is just complete and total corruption that's happening there. And it's much easier to do when they're all in the same locale in DC. It's much tougher to do when they're dispersed, if they're dispersed across the country, and these agencies will not all be sitting in Washington and sucking up to each other, to the different hotbeds of power brokers. So yeah, the Richmond of north of Richmond. Yeah, that song really nailed it. As far as how this corruption works. But the question I have is sort of what Eric is saying. 6 months seems like a joke. And the question I have is, I know in New York, you cannot restrict people's right to work for whomever they want to, because public policy views that as a form of slavery. That it's like once you work for Party A, Party A has
that's a non non-compete. That's a private
non-compete. So New York doesn't allow non-competes?
They allow non-competes as long as they're limited in time and scope and geography.
Yeah.
California actually outlawed non-competes, I think, this year.
Yeah. So, really? and I'm sure.
Well, I think federal law trumps state law.
In Michigan, they don't have any restrictions. They don't have any similar type of restrictions. And so
I don't think
they do, not by statute. It's reasonable time and reasonable region.
You don't think it's related to the federal government? You think the federal government can say you're never allowed to go into the private sphere?
Not never, no. But an amount of time. I mean, I think you could get a year easily, maybe even a little bit more.
I would think
you could definitely get a year.
I would, but I don't think a year or two is enough, because if they're going to be getting such a big payday, I don't know that they're looking at a golden parachute. Basically, it's like, I'm going to retire from the government, and the next thing I'll have a golden parachute if I'm really nice to this energy company, or if I'm the DOD.
Right, I help them with these contracts is what really kind of breaks down.
The law is basically they don't want to impoverish people for a lot of the same reasons why Joe said, the slavery thing and everything. You don't want to create a situation where the people are impoverished indefinitely, and that's why. Under the case law, at least in Michigan and in the majority of the states, it's a reasonable time, reasonable geographic region. You could say 5 years. That could be reasonable, And I don't see why the courts would not, necessarily uphold that or would strike it down one way or the other. I feel like 5 years could be reasonable, but I haven't really looked into it.
Well, I think
much.
5 years
I
is enough
believe
time to lessen their influence and also make it worthwhile for
If
them
it were
to find
statutory,
something
though,
else.
If you want to move from executive, I don't remember exactly what the mechanism was, whether it was a regulation or if you passed a federal statute to that effect, then the state courts would have nothing to say. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but I think 5 years is a little out there, frankly. You do want to attract people after all, and
so can we parse it then a little bit, because that's where some of it too is. If, for example, said general helps Raytheon win this contract, and then Raytheon hires them after 1 year, whatever time you want. So maybe we could say, if you don't have a tie in your military career with that specific company, even though that's still not perfect, I'm just saying it.
Listen. This is an issue. It's also in the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court. Book advances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's money laundering.
These are bribes. This started with Hillary Clinton. Books that have no prospect of ever selling out, their advance, and you write checks to public officials. There's a lot of reform that needs to be done, and you do have a problem because super talented people. This is especially true in the legal profession. A lot of the judges on the bench now are really, really crappy quality, and the people who are really, really good are used to making really, really a lot of money. And it was one thing to say, "Oh, it's public service. You should be prepared to make a sacrifice," and that is true. You should be prepared to make a sacrifice, but that sacrifice used to be to use today's numbers. The numbers used to be much different. Instead of making $300,000-$400,000 a year, I'll make $200,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Now the numbers are, instead of making $2 or $3 million a year, I'll make $200,000 a year. And you might think, well, if you've made $2 million or $3 million a year for 5 or 10 years, what do you even care anymore? Answer, I don't know. I never did. But it appears to me that people get really used to being that rich. That is my observation.
Well, that's the same argument for teachers and other things.
Yeah, but teachers, but it's not, because teachers are, there's no problem finding teachers.
Well, quality teachers. Let's qualify this.
Right. So it's
same thing with the law. I'm just saying, taking your judges example and just saying teachers, because there's so many super talented people. What super talented people are not a science teacher than a scientist, or things like that.
It's a fair point. I think it deserves greater thought. And you're right. We do need to parse it out. But the money government complex, I think, Eric, you've hit on something that really needs a lot of reform.
Okay, real quickly, I want to address this super chat, which I pulled up earlier, whatever. Technically, I've had a legal panel going on now for, 3 years, 4 years, 3 to 4 years, I think. I think now coming into 4 years on different channels. But I did not invent the thing. I believe Nick Rekieta had panels on in the past before that he called the big brain panel or something like that. And I'm sure the other people have had different panels. I've just been very, very fortunate that I have people like these guys that are hanging out, and it's possible I might have the longest running legal panel going, but I never want to take credit for something that, I can't really viably take credit for.
I've seen a clip of Nick claiming that he was doing it long before you. I don't remember where I saw it, but I definitely saw it.
I think you were in the clip. I think you guys were side by side in the clip, and I think it was once on the intro of this show.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard it once before.
Yeah. So anyway, I always want to address that, and it's a good time to wrap things up. Joe, what do you have coming up?
I don't know. The election's over. I should retire now. That's probably what's going to happen. So stay tuned if you want to catch what's potentially the last show of my career.
What? Well, Joe even was doing a secondary Trump channel that I think fizzled out for.
Yeah, well, that's because none of the trials ended up being on TV. I was like, I'm going to use this to stream trials, and I'm like, wait a second, none of these trials are on TV. Literally 0 of them because federal trials aren't on TV and New York doesn't allow for streaming anything. And I was just like, that's just wrong.
Well, you could cover Peanut in New York.
Yes, yes, that's true. I guess but they don't. New York doesn't allow cameras in the courtroom. It's Rule 53 of.
Oh no, Peanut didn't have a trial.
Trump should change that.
Execution.
Mm.
And so did Fred the Raccoon. While we're on it, which is very sad. Dave, what do you have coming up?
Tomorrow night at 9 p.m. I have a Lego stream, as one of my awesome moderators in the chat has been chiming out the whole time. But that's on my other channel. It's not on MLS. It's on Lego Law, Life, and Libations. So check that out. And then I don't know what's coming on after that. But you can go back to 2 weeks ago where Ron was building Lego with me on that as well. So
nice. All right. And Ron, what do you have coming up?
Nothing.
There you go.
The election's over. Ron's done too.
We burnt everything out on the election. That's it. We're done.
All right. Well, I've got a new channel called Proven Conspiracies. If people want to check that out, couple things coming up in there. I'm going to be doing a video on the Fed. I think that's a definite hot topic right now to discuss the creature of Jekyll Island, what went down, what the Fed is about, what is supposed to be, what's actually happened. It's just short, so it won't be like Griffin's book, which is kind of a great resource on it. And then Nate suggested, I didn't even think about it, for Proven Conspiracies, Bill Cosby could be seen as a proven conspiracy because for literally decades, it was conspiracy theory that Bill Cosby was a creepy criminal. And I'll probably be going into that a little bit. But most importantly, while you're all here, why don't you subscribe to this channel? We do this thing on Fridays. And the more of you that subscribe, the more likely these guys will show up again and have some great conversation. And I love the fact that we can discuss things, disagree, not agree, check each other, etc. And you can see the amazing panels that we have frequently. So everybody, thank you so much.
Have a great day, everyone. Great weekend. Great Shabbos.
Good.